Good morning and welcome to Totally Beads 12 Days of Christmas. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these really beautiful adjustable bangles using memory wire. They're really great to adjust the size, so you can make them as lovely gifts or you can wear them for yourself. And they're also stackable, so you can wear a few up your arm at once. We've got some beautiful crystals, beautiful beads in there for you this morning, so I hope you enjoy it and thank you for joining me. During today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make these lovely adjustable memory wire bangles. Now, they're really pretty, very dainty, gives a lovely petite finish and they're very elegant, but they're also great for everyday wear. You can open them out and make them smaller, so they are one size fits all, and it's just a different take on traditional use of memory wire where you'd be coiling and wrapping that up your arm. So to make these, we're going to be using the memory wire, which is a tempered steel, and this will hold its shape. So you're also going to need some heavy duty cutters or some memory wire cutters. It is a tempered steel, so it is quite strong. You don't want to be using your normal cutters for this because you will damage them. We're also going to be needing some round nose pliers, some general cutters, and also some flat nose pliers as well. So to begin with, I'm going to take my coil of memory wire and I'm going to cut about 1.5 circles of this. So I'm going to find whereabout I would like it to sit, and with my heavy cutters I'm going to trim that off to leave me with around 1.5 circles. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to work in the direction of the wire. I'm not working against it, and I'm going to make a tiny little loop towards one of the ends. Now I'm going to use my round nose pliers for this, and they are graduated, so they are smaller at the tip and larger at the top. So I'm going to use towards the end of my pliers to make a nice small loop, and I'm going to position that in and make sure it's nice and flush so there's none of the memory wire sticking out over the top. And then with my thumb, I'm just going to guide that round using little motions to turn that into a little loop which is fully closed. I'm going to keep turning it until it becomes a little closed loop. And then I'm going to support the underneath of it, putting my pliers back in and giving it a little twist to straighten it up. So I should have a little loop like this. I'm just going to make sure that's fully closed. So using my thumb just to support that as I give it a little twist round. And when I'm happy with my loop and that it's fully closed, I'm going to take my flat nose pliers, I'm going to bend that down to around 90 degrees. So I should have a little loop that looks like this. And then I'm going to just start adding on whatever the beads and crystals and pearls that I'd like. You can use as many as you want. I'm going to start off with a smaller one. And I'm going to start adding, I like odd numbers, so I'm going to start adding 3 of the smaller ones. And then 2 of the larger ones. Now you can see I'm not opening out my memory wire, I'm keeping it in its bangle shape, and I'm only opening up the little part of it where I am adding those beads on. So I'm going to keep going with this pattern and this design, adding on 3 of one and 2 of the other. Making sure that I'm keeping this in its coiled shape. And I'm going to keep going with this until I've filled probably about 3/4 of the bangle. This is a really good project to do where you're using minimal materials. You know, you don't have to have a lot of beads to do this, and you're only going to be using a coil and a half of your memory wire. So you can create lots of pretty little looks. Okay, so when I'm happy that I've filled the bangle to where I want it to be, I'm going to make sure that those beads come up to that first loop, and if need be, I'm going to trim off a little bit of the wire. I think I've actually cut this okay, so I don't think I need to trim any of that off. And I'm just going to take, so I've got the loop on the left and the wire on the right. I'm going to open this up and pop in the other section of that wire through that loop that we've made. So you can, as I say, you can open it out a little bit more or bring that in if you want to make it much smaller. If I wanted to make it much smaller, I'd bring this round, cut a little bit of this off and make my other loop to fit around there. But I actually think I want mine around this size. So I'm going to make another little loop on this end, again using my round nose pliers. So I'm working in the direction, I'm not working against the wire, bringing out this way. I'm going to make my loop going in around where that coil is. Again, I'm going to position it towards the end. I'm going to use my thumb, and with tiny little movements, I'm just going to start bringing that round. So we've got that lovely little coil at the end, and I can feel it's coming to meet the other side, so it's nice and closed. And then I'm going to pop back in my pliers and give that a little twist to straighten it up. And then I'm going to run my fingers across this section here, just to make sure that they're sitting nicely on top of each other. And where this loop is coming down, I'm going to bring this loop up. So I'm going to take this loop that we've just created, and I'm going to bend that upwards to a 90-degree angle in the opposite direction. So this loop's coming down and this one will be going up. And then I'm just going to run my fingers to make sure that they're running on top of each other and parallel, and make sure my beads are in position. And then I'm going to open this one up like I would a jump ring and pop that wire through that little gap that we've just opened up. And then close that back over, making sure it's fully closed. We don't want that wire to slip back out. So if it does, you can take your pliers and just give that a little tiny squish. Just going to straighten it back up a little bit and then close that over. So this will now be able to open up and extend. So you'll be able to get that over your fingers, over your knuckles and onto your wrist. And if you like, you can also add some little decorative charms onto the end of there. So what I like to do is take a couple of head pins, and your head pins have got these flush finishes onto the end. And I'm going to take one of my matching crystals that I've used within the bangle, and using my pliers, I'm just going to give that a little bend to 90 degrees. I'm not going to go straight up against that crystal because I don't want it to chip or to break, so I'm leaving just a tiny little space above it when I make that 90-degree bend. And then I'm going to cut off the excess, leaving myself about 1 centimetre. Use my round nose again, just to create a tiny little loop. It's entirely up to you if you like to turn them away from you or towards you. I tend to twist mine in. Just straighten that up a little bit. So we've got a nice P shape there. That turns into an I shape, like this. And I'm going to do a couple more of them with the smaller crystals. So again, popping my crystal onto the end so it comes up to this nail point finish. Use my pliers to bend that over around 90 degrees. Cut off, leaving around 1 centimetre. At the very tip of my pliers, I'm going to start turning that in to make a little loop. So it should sit at the top above that crystal. If you need to, you can pop them back in and just give it a little twist to straighten that up. And I'm going to do one more. As I say, I like to work with those odd numbers. So I'm going to use another little crystal. By bending that pin over to around 90 degrees, it means when I make the loop on my head pin, it should sit nicely on the top. So I want to make sure it's nice and flush, nothing sticking out the top of my pliers there. Start to give it little movements to rotate that round so it's sitting on top. And then I'm just going to open these up and add them onto my bangle. So I'm going to add these ones onto the bottom wire. So I'm just opening it up like I would a jump ring and making sure that they're fully closed over again. So when you're using your head pins, you can make lots of little charms. And I think that just adds a little bit of a decorative finish to your bangle. So I'm putting the larger crystal on in the middle. And then finishing off with one of the smaller ones again. So I'm opening that up by just lifting it, threading that on, and then just closing it with my pliers back over. Making sure they're fully closed so they're not going to fall off. And there you have a very quick but very pretty little bangle. I hope you enjoyed today's make, and most importantly, I hope you enjoy wearing them. They are really lovely and quite simple to do, give a really nice look. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you're all having a very wonderful Christmas and I look forward to seeing you soon. Season's greetings.